I am Anita Bowser. I am the interviewer today, and I am here on September 29th, 2025. Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
Joe Randig from Butler, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Joe. So, Joe, can you tell me a little bit about the significant event of your childhood?
The most significant event would be that I got polio in 1952. I was 5 years old. I had started school, went to school for about 2 weeks in September, first grade, and then I came down with polio, and it changed everything. I was taken to Butler Hospital, transferred to Pittsburgh Hospital, Municipal Hospital in Pittsburgh. I was in isolation there for about 3 weeks, and then I was transferred to D.T. Watson in Sewickley, and I was there for a total of 22 months altogether, from the time I first got polio until I was released from the rehab hospital. I was involved with it for 22 months. After a while, I got home on weekends, but probably about the first 6 months, I don't think I went home much. I might have gone home for Christmas, but after several months, 6 months or so, I was able to go home on weekends and then back on Sunday night. There, I was learned to walk again because of the paralysis. My right leg and hip were totally paralyzed at that point. I had some use of my left leg, but it was maybe 50% muscle function or less on my left leg. I was fitted with braces on both legs, back brace, locks the hips, locks at the knees. I was fitted with those braces, learned how to use them with crutches, 2 crutches. I went to first grade in the hospital. I finished first grade there, and that's probably about it. One of the many things that we learned in the hospital was they would teach us to fall. You would have to fall. At least they had a soft mat on the floor, but they would teach us to fall. Now get up. We're not going to help you. You're going to be falling, and nobody might be around to help you. So you got to get yourself up. And they also had a fake street light in front of the hospital for us to practice walking across the street. And it had a high curb on the other side, like a 10-inch curb, like you're getting up onto a bus or something. And they would activate the street light. You'd have so many seconds to get across the street. And if you didn't make it, you were dead because there was a bus, there was a car coming, so you had to get across the street rapidly. The rehab, one of my favorite parts of the rehab was a swimming pool rehab. We used the pool on a regular basis for muscle activity, muscle strengthening. Like I said, I lived there essentially for almost 2 years. Went to school, played around the grounds just like you would in your neighborhood. Ate with everybody else in the dining room. Made a few friends about the same age, and we sort of tried to keep in contact over the years. One of the worst things about the hospital stay was the night splints. They were like essentially braces that you wore on your legs at night to keep your legs straight, so you weren't bending your knees. And I just couldn't sleep with my legs straight. I would do everything I could to get those night splints off. They usually found out about it and came along and strapped me back in again, but that was a unpleasant part of it.
Now, did your family visit much when you were there?
Well, not too much since I was going home on the weekend, but through the week, no. No, I seldom saw any family members or any visitors through the week. But on the weekends when I went home, like, they'd pick me up on Friday, like the end of the day on Friday, and take me back Sunday evening. But other than that, I didn't really see them on through the week.
Were there a lot of kids there at the facility?
Yeah, there were. I think there were a lot of kids. There was the third floor was devoted mostly to babies. I can remember seeing rows and rows and rows of cribs with babies in them. The older kids, I think. I don't know if there was anybody over there over 20 years old. Most of them were like my age, 5, 10, 12, a few teenagers. And the boys were all on one side, segregated. Boys were on one side of the facility. The girls were all on the other side of the facility, and we didn't, our paths didn't cross unless we were going to the auditorium for a event or something like that. You know, when you got polio back then, they didn't really know how it was passed, so they isolated everybody. Put signs on the house. It's under quarantine. Stay away. People would bring food to the house, put it on the porch. My oldest brother and my dad, they moved out of the house so that they could go to work. Mary Phillips was with the March of Dimes, I believe, and she helped explain, you know, what we needed to. My family needed to do to get financial help, and Mary Phillips couldn't go in the house because it was under quarantine. She'd had to stay on the porch and talk to my mother.
When your family was under quarantine, who was bringing them supplies? Was that your father and your brothers?
Probably relatives. My father and my brother, like I said, they were living out of the house, so they could have been bringing things to the house. I don't know how long that quarantine lasted, maybe 3 weeks or something like that. After I was released from the hospital, we were contacted by the hospital. Dr. Salk was working on the polio virus at the time, and he was working through the hospital because the kids there already had polio. So, but there were three strains of polio, so you could have polio and you could still get the other strain of polio. So he was working with his vaccinating through the hospital, and after I was released, my parents were contacted and asked if they wanted to take part in a follow-up study of the polio virus, the antibody, the vaccine that Dr. Salk had created, and they were willing to get involved in it. They wanted to take part in it. So I think like on the records that I have, on the day after the polio vaccine was approved for general consumption, we went down to the hospital in Swickley, and they took a blood sample from us. That was me, my brother, my sister, 2 sisters, my mother and dad, and they would check that blood sample to see if we had the antibody in our blood system before they gave us the polio vaccine. And then Dr. Salk himself gave us the polio vaccine, and it was interesting because my parents, being much older, they had the polio antibody in their blood system already. So at some point in their lives, their body came across the polio virus. But it didn't, make them terribly sick or cause any paralysis. But this study went on for several years, might have been close to 9 years, I think. We would go down once a year to have blood drawn, and they would check it to see if our bodies was maintaining the antibody for the polio virus.
So when the vaccine was approved, what did that mean for the country? Do you remember?
Personally, I don't really remember, but what I've seen and what I've heard, it was like tremendous relief. There was celebration. There was people were really excited that the vaccine had been approved and they could finally get vaccinated against polio.
So when you went home and you resumed your normal life at home, what was that like? Then you went back to school, into your regular classes?
Yeah, I went back to school. I missed a class at first grade. I had to restart in the next class since I was out for almost 2 years. But I went to parochial school, 8th grade. Actually, in 8th grade, I needed surgery on my legs, and I needed braces because I had grown since then. So my dad found out about Shriners Hospital, and through the help of some local Shriners, being sponsored by local Shriners, they got me into Shriners Hospital in Philadelphia. I was there for 6 months. I had surgery on both my knees, made new braces, new crutches, everything, new shoes, everything new. I was 15 years old at the time. So starting into adulthood, I had, everything new, fitting me better. Like I said, I was there for 6 months, and then I came back to Butler. I was a DJ in the hospital, and it was like over the hospital PA system. It didn't go beyond the hospital, but it was the hospital PA system. It's where you lived. I lived there for 6 months. It was sort of, your home.
Did you learn to drive?
Yeah. My dad knew somebody who, I think they might have had a child who needed the handicapped driving equipment. They made their own, and I don't know how my dad found out about this guy, but he made up the hand braking equipment for me, and I learned how to drive. I've been able to drive, all my life, luckily. I still have the driving equipment. I have a little bit more equipment than I had back then, but I've been able to drive and still do. Around 10 years ago, I came across a group on the internet, PA Polio Survivors, and it caught my attention because it was sort of getting rare to see anything about polio related to polio, because most people, forgot about it by then. What got my attention was the PA. They were in Pennsylvania. So I contacted them, and a woman was running it over by Philadelphia. She had run into problems not being able to get a diagnosis with her polio, post-polio syndrome, which is a condition that occurs after a person has had polio, like 20, 25, 30 years. Their body is just worn out from having to deal with the paralysis and the overuse of what muscles they do have left. But I got involved with that group, and the woman said, well, how would you like to be the Western Pennsylvania representative for PA Polio Survivors Network? So, yes, I became the PA polio survivors representative for Western Pennsylvania, and I've written several items for that group. We provide education support for each other. If one person has a problem, another person might have an answer. What doctors might be good for you, what maybe not. And I sometimes get a call from somebody in the area, Pittsburgh area somewhere, wanting information about where can I get a brace made, what kind of doctor should I see, what would you recommend, who would you recommend, and things like that. They're still going. They have got quite a large following now on their website. It's an online support group, essentially. And we have a monthly Zoom meeting, and we send out a newsletter every month with polio information, updates, what's new, what's not new.
Sounds like it keeps you busy.
It did quite a bit for several years, but I have sort of tried to back off a little bit on my involvement there. Was it the 50th anniversary? Probably. 50th anniversary of the polio vaccine. We were invited to, because, like I said, Dr. Salk had been involved with the D.T. Watson Home, and they had my contact information, I think. Anyway, we went. They had an event, a function down at Pitt. They chose Pitt because it was one of the big locations for the polio vaccine. When it was approved in 1955, they did a lot of polio vaccine at Pitt. So we went down for that event for the day. Some celebrities were there. Mickey Rooney was there. Tinley Albright, the skater who had polio, she was there. The doctor that worked with Dr. Salk on the creation of the polio vaccine was there. And polio survivors like myself. It was a very interesting day. I was interviewed by Pitt, something that Pitt was conducting, probably similar to this. Yeah. Dr. Salk lived in Wexford when he was working on the vaccine, working through Pitt, and they organized an event at Pine Township, Pine Recreation Center or something. Dr. Salk's son Peter was there, and there were some other speakers. I got to meet Peter, and other speakers were there. Dr. Salk, where he lived in Wexford on Route 19, now is a Burger King, I think, and there's a plaque somewhere around the Burger King parking lot that designates this area was the home of Dr. Salk. Yeah, this D.T. Watson home that I mentioned was also a nursing school. They had a pretty big facility, living facility for the nurses, and they were in training right there. After my parents died and we were cleaning out the house, I discovered that they had saved a lot of polio information on me, which I had no idea. They saved all that stuff, old bills and receipts and communication, and I got to do something with these things. I thought I just can't ignore them. So I put a scrapbook together, started with that, and it just sort of snowballed, and I went through my life. It's called my polio scrapbook. Through the years, through my life.
Was there anything more that you'd like to share?
Post-polio syndrome is, I think most people don't know about that. They don't have any reason to think about that. But it's what it has done with me is as I get older and get weaker losing muscle strength. I need things that I didn't need 10 years ago. Like now I have a scooter that I take with me when I go out. I have a power wheelchair for in the house. I have grab bars and things to help me in the bathroom. And most polio survivors experience this at some point in their life. They all their life they have tried to function as normal as possible, considering what they had, and now they're faced with these new restrictions, weaknesses, and concerns. Even people who did not have paralytic polio, they might have had a bout of polio, might have been really sick for a few months, but as it turned out, they didn't have any paralysis. So they just went about their whole life like everybody else, and now 30 years later, oh geez, why is my leg not working? Why am I falling? Post-polio syndrome is just, you didn't realize it, you didn't know it at the time, but your body was weak, and it just wasn't functioning 100% like everybody else was, and you did it that way for 30 years, and now you're sort of in trouble with post-polio syndrome.
So, is part of your work with the support network raising awareness of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of information on that on the website. There's a Dr. Bruno who actually wrote the Bible on post-polio and polio rehab. We have been fortunate enough to get all of his writings, all of his posts, everything that he has done is available on our website. Everything related that you could think of related to polio, post-polio syndrome. There's a lot of information on our website.
That's great.
They're also very big proponents of the vaccine.
Yeah, vaccine awareness. It's so frustrating that people would ever hesitate to have their child vaccinated with any of these diseases or viruses that they do have a vaccine for, and it can help them to completely avoid getting sick in more ways than one. Well, we have developed a saying in the last few years, the group, post-polio group, that the polio virus is a plane ride away. It really is. And then a few weeks ago, I heard politicians in Florida were thinking about stopping mandated polio vaccinating. Florida is a big travel area, vacation area. A lot of people from all over the world go to Florida for vacation. Polio virus is just a plane ride away.
Well, there was a man in, was it New York, who
New
got
York.
polio a couple years ago. It was one of the first cases in this country in years and years and years.
Yeah.
And he had been out of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, you can be, you can not realize you have polio for about 2 weeks, but you're contagious. So the polio virus can be passed along by people who don't even know they have it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome.